So, still under complex numbers, our example 2, how to deal with complex number. Example 2, we are saying solve x squared minus 2x plus 5 is equal to 0. So this quadratic equation, we are to solve for the value of x. So here we are going to apply the quadratic formula. When you apply the quadratic formula, we say the quadratic formula is negative. The quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything out of 2a. So in the next step, we put each letter in separate brackets to help us when we are substituting. So now in the next step, we begin by substituting according to the values. You remember the coefficient of x squared is called then this one is b, coefficient of x. Then the constant term, we call it c. So we use it to substitute down here. So where there is a, where there is b, our b here is negative 2, we put negative 2. Then where there is b, we put negative 2. Where there is a, we put 1 because the coefficient here is 1. Coefficient of x squared is 1. Then c here is a constant term, which is 5. Then down here, we also have our a is also 1. So now after substituting, we open the bracket while simplifying. So that in the next step, we have negative times negative, we get a positive, and will be positive 2. Then plus or minus the square root of this one. So negative 2 squared is the same as negative 2 times negative 2, which we get 4, which is a positive 4. Now, when you multiply negative 4 times 1, we get negative 4. Then negative 4 times silent positive 5, we get negative 20. And this is what we have. And what is in the root sign here is what we call the discriminant. Everything or expression in the square root sign, we call it the discriminant when it comes to quadratic formula here. Now, the denominator is 2. So the next step, we have 2 because we know positive 2 is the same as 2. Then we copy everything. Then plus or minus, we have it here. The square root of this one, 16. Okay, now 4 minus 20, we get negative 16. But as I previously demonstrated in example 1, getting the square root of negative number is now easy. So let us get the square root of negative 16. We can go ahead and by saying that the square root of negative 16 is the same as square root of 16 times negative 1, which will give us 16 square root of 16 times square root of negative 1. But square root of negative 1 is I, and the square root of 16 is 4. Then 4 times I. Here we get 4i. So we were simplifying what is in the root to deal with the root. So everything for the root, we have got it as being 4i. So instead of writing the root of negative 16, we shall now put 4i, which is what we have obtained from here. Now, in the next step, we have 2 plus or minus 4i, everything out of 2. So that in the next step, we pull out the 2. We want to pull out a number which can cancel this one here. So we can pull out 2 because 2 is here. Even this 4 can be divided, can be factorized. We can also find 2 inside this 4 you are seeing. So when we are factorizing, since the denominator is 2, we pull out the 2 in the bracket. So we pull out the 2 here. After pulling out the 2, we pull out by dividing the signs and the numbers. So positive divide by positive here is silent positive. We get a silent. We get a we get what? Get a silent positive inside here. Then 2 divide by 2, we get 1. Then here plus or minus. When we divide positive divide by positive, we get a positive. Then negative divide by negative, we get also a negative. Then 4 divide by 2, we get 2. Then we maintain the I. Then denominator, we have 2. So here, we can cancel out. 2 divide by 2, we get 1. Then 2 divide by 2, we also get 1. And inside the bracket, we are remaining with 1 plus or minus 2i, which is the same as 1 plus or minus 2i. then we can go ahead and conclude that one. Can go ahead and conclude. We can conclude by separating the sign. The first one we shall have a positive in between, the other one we shall have a negative in between. So now the answer will be either x is equal to 1 plus 2i, or x is equals to 1 minus 2i. So that is the answer for example 2. So as well, we can proceed to example 3. But after watching, you send us a message in the comment. Thank you.